welcome back to Podium Pop. My name is Grace, and I'm here with my co-host Celine. We are a Formula One, Indycar, motorsport podcast. And today we are going to recap the Canadian Grand Prix for Formula One and the Road America Indycar race. What do you say we pop the bottle and get started?
Before we get started, make sure you're following us on social media. We are on TikTok. We are on Twitter. We are on Instagram. We do post on TikTok the most out of all of those, probably. And we do post an episode every Monday-ish on Spotify and YouTube. And we do sometimes post some bonus episodes throughout the week as well. So make sure you're following us on social media to keep up with all of those.
We're close to 300 followers on TikTok, so if you're not following us there, go give us a watch. We post some fun content.
Yes.
Yeah.
We post a lot on there.
We do. Yeah.
So...
speaking of posting a lot, we posted a lot of qualifying reactions for Formula One.
Oh my gosh. We have more that we didn't even post to, which are like, we filmed the whole
entire thing, yeah.
We have really good reactions of both of the spoiler alert, Ferrari getting knocked out in Q1, and then we also have the reaction of both the Williams making it to Q2.
Yeah.
Big moments for us.
Huge moments. So let's start with quali. Well, let's start with before quali. Because right before qualifying started, Yuki Tsunoda was announced by VCARB that he is extending his contract for just 1 year.
Weird.
Which is really weird.
Weird timing.
Weird timing.
Not weird that they extended it.
No,
weird
I wasn't surprised.
Timing.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of thoughts about that Yuki man.
Let's dive in.
I've never been a huge Yuki fan. I'm not like, woo, go Yuki. Like, he's not one of my top drivers. But he is so underappreciated.
Yeah.
And it blows my mind that week after week after week after week, he proves that he's a consistently good racer. And week after week after week, Red Bull and Formula One fans in general forget he's just there.
Just look over him.
Look over him because Daniel Ricciardo is such a big personality. And also, I think that he should be considered more so to move up into Red Bull. I think that the fact that he's rarely even in the conversation. I get maybe it's not the best move to actually do it, but he should be more in the conversation. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just my opinion.
Also, the 1 year is so interesting, and I guess with regulations coming in 26, I don't know, but everything that we've seen contract extension-wise is, we've heard, like, multi-year from, like, Lando, Oscar, Lewis, and then, like, Checo got signed for 2 years. I don't know. I just feel like...
there was some weird news that popped up that in the interview right before the race started, Christian mentioned something being like, yeah, Checo's with us for 1 year.
I didn't see that.
And then, like, he kind of backtracked, I guess. I'll need to look into that more.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
More on that maybe next episode.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting to me. I do wonder if maybe the long-term game for Red Bull is to keep the four the same, and then maybe once Checo, I'm sure he's close to retirement, maybe be like, okay, Checo, like, we'll give you 2 more years, maybe you retire. He even said he wants to retire with Red Bull.
Yeah.
I could see him working out these 2 years and then retiring, and then maybe they're like, we'll plan on bringing it up whoever's the best driver at the time, whether that be Yuki or Daniel.
Could be Liam Lawson.
Could be Liam Lawson. But then other people are saying that they think that it's going to really depend on performance. Obviously, they have all these clauses in there.
Oh, yeah.
It would not surprise me if at one point next year, if Checo continues on the path, they do decide to bring Yuki up sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Which would open up a spot for Liam. Which I think is criminal that he doesn't already have a seat confirmed.
It is criminal, and it's going to stay criminal, and Red Bull is going to lose him. And
I hope they do.
It's going to be an Oscar Piastri situation. I think we said that last week, but...
Yeah. Anyways, that was my rant.
We also saw the Daily Mail decided to put out an article. They are reporting that Ollie Behrman has already signed with Haas for 2025. I know the Daily Mail isn't the most trustworthy publication out there, but I'm so excited I'm choosing to believe it.
And I do think I'm choosing to believe it too because it's not that ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, if it was something like, you know, like, really out there, like Esteban signing for, like, anyone really at this point, like, it would just be shocking. I wouldn't trust it. But everyone already kind of expects Ollie to sign with Haas. Like, it'd actually be insane if he didn't get a spot at Haas.
It would be so crazy.
It would be insane, one, because I don't think Ollie would have another spot to go for the Formula One, for the 2025 calendar.
Yeah, I don't think so.
And I think that he'd be stupid to pass up an opportunity, even for, like, a team like Haas. But two, for Haas to pass up and not sign Ollie would be the dumbest mistake that they could ever make.
It would be really dumb. Because I feel like a lot of teams, I mean, he has pretty good potential. A lot of teams would see that.
I mean, and not only is he a great driver, but he has a huge fan base. He's so marketable.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
People love him. He's proven that he can perform in Formula One.
Yeah.
He has more points than a lot of people. Logan Sargent. A lot of people.
You know what? This just had me started thinking, I wonder if... Because obviously it's so early in the season, we have no clue who's winning F2. But I wonder if the F2 winner this year is going to get a seat, or if we're going to see it with that trend, and they'll just pop into a reserve spot.
That will be interesting.
It'll be very interesting to see. Because I was thinking, if Ollie wins F2, which I don't think he's... I forget where his standing is right now. I don't think he's high up right now. If he wins F2, I feel like he'll for sure get that Haas seat, and then... I started thinking about that. That'll be very interesting.
Still no confirmation on anything about Jack.
Or Esteban. Oh, was it Esteban himself? Somebody said that.
Yeah, somebody said that Esteban in an interview and basically was like, I have a seat for next year. It just hasn't been announced yet. I could see him going to Haas.
I was going to say,
him and Ollie.
Haas, yeah.
Be a good lineup. There's still an open seat with Sauber.
Sauber has an open seat.
Because they haven't re-signed Joe, and I honestly don't know if they will.
I don't know.
But he has the sponsors.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's tough.
He's had some tough luck this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been a bummer to see.
Yeah, and then Jack did do FP1, but FP1 was an absolute shit show.
Washout.
And, like, it was pointless, really. Like, they got, like, a couple of laps, like, couple good laps in, really. Yeah. Which was disappointing because I think he could have gone in and really showed what he can do, and I think it would have been perfect timing right after the Esteban announcement, but it's tough.
Should we get into like how qualifying went?
Yeah.
Qualifying was crazy.
Qualifying was crazy. It was... rain was coming, but it never really came.
Yeah.
It was wet, it was sprinkly, but it wasn't the rain they were expecting.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it messed up a lot of people's strategies because they were like, let's save the tires for this, let's save these tires, let's wait, let's go early, that kind of thing. Like, it was impossible to put together a good strategy that you knew was going to work. You're just, like, really, like, gambling with it.
Yeah, for sure. It was insane. We saw both Ferraris get knocked out in Q2, which was...
very
absolutely crazy. It was kind of like, okay, Charles could get this, Charles could do it, but then
Q2
they got knocked down in Q2.
Yeah.
And then honestly that was insane. And then both Williams made it to Q2,
which
I should say Logan made it to Q2, Alex made it to Q3. We were very, very excited. That's one of the videos we posted. I was very excited. Yeah. Loved to see that. And then
Checo.
Oh, yeah.
Checo was knocked out in Q1. He got 16th. He qualified 16th.
Yeah.
And again, I think that Checo's an amazing race car driver.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you can be a great race car driver, but it's not going to matter if you don't give the results that's needed. And it's not to say, like, he's had an off couple of weeks. He's done some great stuff, but it's this consistency is missing.
Yeah, the consistency is missing.
And I think, again, while Yuki is not qualifying, when Checo's good, Yuki's not anywhere near Checo, but you got to also consider that the car he's in, and you also got to consider that at least Yuki is consistent with what he's bringing. And I think that the more that Checo continues to drop the ball on things, the more that Red Bull's going to get nervous about the Constructors' Cup.
Yeah, for sure.
Because already this weekend, again, not a spoiler alert, but by the end of the weekend, it's the gap is being closed pretty quickly to Red Bull.
Yeah, it is. Actually, it's kind of insane because I remember at the race four, we were like, ugh, that gap is just they're taking away. But Ferrari's not too far behind, and McLaren's not too far behind Ferrari.
It could be an interesting year.
It could be such an interesting year.
I love Formula One.
I'm like so excited to see how this plays out. Just pumped. Our starting grid was George Russell got pole, his second career pole.
Very exciting.
Exciting for George. Max got second, and then Lando and Oscar wore the second row. They were all within 0.2 of each other, and George and Max actually had the same exact lap time, except for George did his lap time first. So he got pole position. And that hasn't happened, drivers getting the same exact lap time since 1997.
The year we were born. I will like to point out that whenever George did get out of his car after getting pole, he did do his iconic pose, his T-pose, which it just made me giggle. That man, one thing that George Russell is going to do is going to make me giggle.
What did you say? Holy moly, is that what he said?
He also, at one point he did say he almost hit the wall. And he caught it, thankfully, but he goes, oh, holy moly. Which was a nice, then it made us talk about Joseph Newgarden in qualifying for IndyCar last weekend when he almost hit the wall and he went, oh dear.
Oh dear. It's so funny.
Like, I love these grown men using these, like, same phrases that, like, a 90-year-old grandma would use. Like,
meanwhile, I feel like I would be like, ooh, almost just.
Most of the F1 drivers are like cussing. They're like, oh shit. And they're like, holy moly.
Holy moly. Crikey.
It's just so, it's endearing.
It is pretty endearing. I would also like to point out, first of all, Ferrari we talked about how they didn't make it out of Q2. Their tire strategy wasn't the best in qualifying.
It was weird. They were saving the tires for Q3. They didn't make it to Q3 to use the tires. Q3.
But also, it went Charles, Carlos, Logan in qualifying.
And Logan wasn't far off.
Logan was not far off of those Ferraris.
Which is always nice to see.
When he's running parts from 2023 and he's keeping up with the Ferraris?
Yeah.
Okay.
Another thing to point out, Daniel Ricciardo did qualify pretty well.
Yeah,
he qualified in 5th. And again, Daniel Ricciardo, when he's on, he's on.
Yeah, he is.
He does really good with qualifying. His race pace is never quite there. He qualified really good. I forget, was it Miami?
Miami Sprint.
He qualified really well. And he has these really good, like, moments. The consistency is just not as good as Yuki's, I think.
Yeah.
Where, like, he qualified 5th, Yuki qualified 8th.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it was a good qualifying, honestly.
Interesting qualifying.
Yeah, I thought about it a lot after it happened.
It was a thinker.
It was a thinker. Should we, Oh, and then very notable, Alex Albon making it to Q3 again. Williams is doing something right. Let's transfer to Logan's car, please.
Yes.
James? Hey,
James.
Let's talk about this race.
This race, first of all, the beginning, it was still very wet.
Oh, yeah.
And it was
scary.
It was scary.
Yeah.
Everybody started on inters except for both Haas's started on their wet tires.
Yeah.
And let me tell you,
they were kind of cooking.
It was electric watching them.
Not even, like, Kevin Magnussen was in 4th at one point, chasing down Lando. Like, actively chasing him down. Like, there wasn't a gap. Like, he was right there.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
It was so, and, like, you know that, like, Kevin Magnussen's like, if it's now or never.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I got to. And honestly, like, it was a good strategy. Like, basically, we know we're not going to be able to keep up with race pace. So we got to get as far up on the grid as possible so that as we lose places, they aren't it's not as hard. But it was magical watching Kevin fly through those people. And again, it was because tires, he could definitely push harder than the people in inters. But, like, he was a madman.
Yeah. Like, when he passed Oscar, I was like, what?
Yeah. No, it was like, we all were looking at each other, we're like, whoa. Like, it's, I don't know. I'm so interested to see what is going on behind the scenes of Haas. Like, have they told Kevin, like, hey, you don't have a seat, or what's the deal with that? Maybe Kevin already knew, maybe Kevin didn't, but he was racing with...
have one?
Right. He was racing with something to prove, and... It was very cool to see.
Yeah. Our friend at one point, I think it was during qualifying, said Kevin Magnussen is driving like he put in his 2-week notice and doesn't give a fuck anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the perfect way to describe it.
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it.
So the beginning was It was interesting.
It was very, yeah.
It stayed pretty much the same. It was Max, George, Lando, Oscar, after
Merckx
the first
them.
couple. Yeah.
Oh, Lewis, I mean.
Yeah. Who'd you say?
I said Merckx, but it was just Lewis.
Oh, yeah. I said Marcus.
Marcus. Like, wrong race.
Yeah. But yeah, so it started off pretty chaotic with the rain. There really wasn't, surprisingly, with the rain, there were no, like, major issues. There were a couple of people that would, like, run off a little bit. But really, all of the yellow flags came later in the race once they were already racing on pretty much dry track.
Yeah.
But from the very beginning, you could see Charles having a lot of issues with his engine power. It was bad
it was
race
really
for Charles.
bad.
It was at one point, so first couple laps, you could hear the radio, Brian coming on the radio being like, hey, like, something's wrong with the engine, we're looking into it. And he's like, okay. And he was like, it was like, what am I can't overtake anyone like this. They're like, okay, you gotta just come into the pits. So he comes into the pits. This is pretty far into the race now. He comes into the pits, and at first we were like, what's going on? Because they changed the tires, and then they sit there. And I'm assuming what they were doing is fixing the engine problem. But they sit there for so long, we're like,
everybody, I was like walking back with a beer in my hand.
Even the mechanics looked a little confused. Like, maybe it wasn't communicated to them. They were like, dude.
It's very confusing.
So, in that pit stop, they put on hard tires. Everybody else is still on inters. Still a very wet track.
It was so wet. Like, the rain, a little rain cloud came through, whatever. It rained a bit. The track was not very dry when he put on hards.
No. And so he put on the hards. He sits there for a while. He finally gets going. And you hear him come over the radio, like, complaining, like, why did we put on hards? Like, why did we do this? And they're like, oh, we're risking it. And, spoiler alert, bad move. Because he had to pit, like, two laps later to put inters on because he couldn't stay on track with those.
And then Charles just ended up,
he was getting lapped.
He was a lap down, and they just retired him.
Yeah. In the words of Brian the mechanic, just come in, we're shit anyways.
Yeah.
Which is, like, so real for that.
Yeah, that's so real.
So yeah, it was a bad race for Charles.
Which sucks after coming down from that Monaco high.
Yeah, that's gotta be.
Yeah,
it's gotta be. He did. I mean, he was not in a very good mood. Even after qualifying,
oh my gosh, yeah, he was in a bad mood. His PR person was like showing him something on the phone, being like, "Oh, we're looking at this. Talk about this." And he literally looks at her and goes, "I'll say what I want." It's like, here's your notes. This is what you're gonna say, and he's like, "No,
I'm gonna talk. I'm gonna talk from my soul," and he did. The bad luck continued for Ferrari.
Carlos going on track. Did he hit a wet patch?
He hit a wet patch, yeah.
And then he spun around.
Took out Alex
Albon. Future teammates are going rough. We don't know for sure.
Not confirmed.
It was really funny though because he was in the grass.
Everyone, we were at the watch party. Everyone was just laughing out loud.
Well, he was trying to fix it, and he was in the grass. He kept slipping and sliding. We were all like out loud laughing.
It was like we were at a comedy show. Like, everyone was like me and Gracie, we cackle a lot.
We love to giggle.
When we're watching Formula One, we crack up over everything. That whole room had our energy.
Yeah, it was so
There was
funny.
a lot of wild boar energy in that room today.
There was, actually.
And it was like we were literally, it looked like we were watching like a cartoon where someone was slipping on a banana. That's the same reaction we had from Carlos slipping in the grass, trying to get back on track.
Oh, he ran over a banana on Mario Kart.
Yeah, literally. But he did end up eventually retiring the car. He made it back to the pit, but he did retire the car.
But before that happened to Logan, well, first of all, Logan hit the wall, turned around, got back out in the race, was in last place. And
he was doing so good all weekend.
I know, in qualifying he was doing so good. I feel so bad. He then, again, spun out into the wall. Was facing the track backwards, which was a little scary.
Yeah, and the cars were still coming. It was a yellow flag, so safety car did eventually come out, but like he was like trying to get out, and you could tell he was like not sure.
Hesitated. Yeah,
he's like, do I? There's a car coming right at me. Like, do I get out of my car right now?
So we had a double Ferrari DNF, we had a double Williams DNF, and then Yuki also DNF'd because he went off and then through a grass patch, hit one of the plasterboards.
Yeah.
His was also really scary though because he spun off into the grass patch and came
and a Haas
back onto track.
Mm-hmm.
And he was also kind of sideways. And the Haas was like really close, very well avoided him.
Mm-hmm.
That could have been so bad.
Yep. Checo also DNF'd.
I forgot about Checo's DNF.
I don't know how it happened though.
Oh, they showed us. Oh, he just went off into the barriers.
Yeah, and his like back wing was like completely fucked. Like
they showed on the broadcast. They didn't show the crash. They just panned back to him with his back wing off, and we were all like,
"Yeah,
what? How'd that happen?
How'd that happen?"
And then that all kind of happened like pretty close to each other, I feel
together.
like.
So it was like, and it all happened like in the middle of the race too.
Yeah.
So like it was like calm, and then that happened, and then like calm again. Well,
yeah.
not calm, but yeah.
Yeah.
So
we also had. So there were 2 safety cars at one point. We had, in the beginning, before the first safety car, Lando passed George. So exciting.
The whole crowd
The
erupted.
whole crowd was so excited.
People love Lando Norris.
People love Lando.
And I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. I do too.
And then Lando caught Max.
Oh.
And he passed him once again. The cheers were crazy. And quite literally, this is when Logan spun and hit the barrier. Quite literally, Lando was going too fast, and he missed the pits.
Yeah.
So he wasn't able to pit right when the safety car went out, and he had to go around again. So he lost some position there.
Mm-hmm.
He even said afterwards in the interview, like, I was unlucky with the safety car. Sometimes it works on your side like it did for me in Miami. It didn't this time. Like, you know, they said that. And then when the second safety car came around, it was like 20-ish laps to go. And then both the McLarens decided not to pit again because they didn't think they would regain their position. I don't know.
It's hard to know.
It's so hard.
It's hard to know. I think that Oscar needed to pit, tires-wise. I think he could have, if he pit and he somehow stayed in front of them.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Well, also, so then towards the end of the race, George and Oscar had a battle for third.
Fourth.
Well,
third. You're right.
Third. Well, it was really sad too. Both the Mercedes. So it was Max, Lando, Oscar, and we were like, "Woo, are we gonna go to double podium?" And the Mercedes were getting closer to Oscar, and Oscar came over the radio and said, "I need Lando's DRS," but I just think the timing didn't work out. Lando wasn't able to, pull back to give DRS, and the Mercs were getting too close. It just didn't work out, and it's so sad.
I feel so bad for Oscar.
I know.
I don't want to get ahead of
myself.
myself.
They also, I was going to say, before that happened, I guess we should have said this first, before the whole DRS thing happened, they came over the radio and said, "Oscar, do you want team orders to try and fight Max?" And Oscar was like, "No, I need to focus on George behind us." So, and then...
That's a real one.
Honestly, that is such a real one, which I would have loved to see Oscar try and take on Max. But you know what? He did what he felt like he needed to do, and he held them off for as long as possible. And then that's what happened when he came over and said, "I need Lando's DRS." That didn't happen, didn't work out.
They did, George and Oscar did bump a bit. And Oscar ended up pulling in ahead of him after that bump. I do think it damaged his car a little bit, slowed him down a bit, because after that, he fell off, and it was, George got in front of him, and then very quickly, Lewis got in front of him as well. And he obviously held fifth because, who was it? Fernando? Yeah, Fernando was so far behind at that point. It was like we knew he would at least stay top 5, but it was disappointing. To be so close to a McLaren double podium.
I know. Before that happened, too, we were like... before they asked Oscar if he wanted to do team orders to fight Max, we looked at each other and we were like, shit, I think Oscar's quicker.
Yeah.
It was maybe a lap or two before them. We were like, oh my god, they need to do team orders. And then they 2 laps were like, Oscar, do you want to do team orders? And he was like, I gotta focus behind me right now.
Yeah. And think about how different that could have been if they did do team orders a little bit sooner. Oscar was in front of Lando. Maybe Lando could have defended.
I do think, right after we had said that, Lando kind of peeled away a bit.
He did, yeah.
I think it was, around a second and a half to 2 seconds, but...
It's just so hard.
I
what
know.
could have happened? Could that have been a McLaren double podium?
Yeah. Well, you should say what you were talking about, too, about second and fifth.
Yeah, no, so at the end of the race, obviously Lando came in second, and Oscar ended up in fifth. And it is, right now as McLaren fans, it's an insane thing to be disappointed over a second and a fifth place.
It's like crazy.
We were like looking at it, we're like, it wasn't the best weekend for us. I'm like, if we had a second and fifth place like last year, or even at the beginning of this year, would have been like, this is fantastic, great race for us. And I'm like, second and fifth, this sucks.
like I think like the what could have beens was so stuck in my head.
Yeah, like if we were working our way up and like we were at like fourth and seventh and moved our way up to second and fifth, it probably would have felt different. But it's just so hard because you could see it, the things that would have fixed it, and it didn't get fixed.
Yeah. Oscar even afterwards was like, in an interview to somebody said that he didn't think some orders were quite best. There's obviously some things we didn't see here behind the scenes.
Yeah. But I also kind of like that Oscar's getting like a little bit more like selfish.
Selfish.
Because he was a rookie last year, so that's completely like a completely different story. But more and more we're seeing him like question what's being told to him, being like, no, like I can do it, or let me do it, or that kind of thing. Like there was even like a moment in Miami where he kind of expressed some frustration over like Lando being in front of the safety car and how he's like gonna obviously like win, and he's like, well, that sucks for me kind of thing, which like is good and it's healthy. And I think that it's very easy for radio messages like that, or messages in interviews like that, for people to be like, they hate each other. Like, no, they're just competitive. Like, that's, if they weren't, it'd be concerning.
Yeah, this is the main objective of the sport, is to win. Yeah. It's the main objective of every sport.
I mean, the same thing with, after both Lewis and George overtook Oscar, like, Lewis and George were fighting for P3, and it was really close. It was really close up into the end.
Yeah, it was.
And afterwards, George was asked about it in the press conference, and he's like, listen, like, we're gonna race. We did it in a clean way. And George was like, it's nice racing like that against Lewis, because, he's, responsible enough and he's experienced enough to not cause any issues. Yeah. But I'm gonna fight him. Like, I'm not just gonna let him pass. And I think that, again, it's like, yeah, like, it would be silly. Yeah. And that's why it's just more exciting. And, like,
it is.
There's some teams that I think would be like, no, don't even go for it. Red Bull.
Well, I was just about to say, towards the end of the race, before Yuki spun out, they gave Daniel the go-ahead to battle Yuki. But then Yuki spun out. I think it was all on his own accord. Like, they didn't collide or anything. But that happened, and I was like, oh my god, did they collide? And then we saw, like, it was just...
Another thing to note...
Oh, before we note... I will love and hate the day that we see Lando and Oscar, like, actively battling each other. I'm like, my eyes are... Do you see them there? I'm really tearing up right now thinking about it.
No, it's gonna be rough.
Like...
It's gonna be rough for us.
I'm excited to see it, but it's gonna be...
hard to watch.
Scary.
Very hard to watch. Even when they started next to each other on the grid today, I was like, oh my god.
Keep the rest to yourself.
Another thing to note, Aston Martin did very well. They got 6th and 7th.
They did well.
Alpine got double points. 9th and 10th.
I didn't realize. Actually, I did realize.
Yeah. Pierre was in 9th.
Pierre
was
in 10th.
Kind of
a quiet race.
Yeah. Alpine had a quiet race.
Alpine did have a quiet race.
From last week, I'm sure that's what they they needed. Also, both Haas's were right outside of points, 11th and 12th, which is pretty good. A lot of cars were out.
Yeah.
Yuki never actually got out. He got back in. He was just really far away.
Oh.
So he spun and then he got back in. He was still in front of Zhou, who was a whole lap down.
Yeah, what happened with Zhou?
Which is, like, weird because, like, at least Yuki can, like, explain why he was so far back.
Also, Zhou was a lap down, and then during the second safety car, they allowed him to unlap. And then how did he get a lap down?
That's something...
I was thinking about it while we were watching. Yeah.
All in all, amazing race.
Great race.
Very exciting. A lot of overtakes. A lot of good overtakes.
And... Sorry. I said that so loud.
And actually,
I was thinking on it earlier, but I completely forgot. It was once again nice to see Max have a race where he's he's fighting for this win.
And this, I mean, honestly, like, the last couple of races, really, this whole season in general, except for like maybe like the first 2 or 3, and actually just the first 2, it's always been like, well, Max is still winning the most of the races.
Yeah.
But he's like having to fight for every single win he's getting.
Yeah.
Like, he had to fight in Imola.
Mm-hmm.
He had to fight here. Like, he's not just getting these easy layups. And that just makes for good
racing.
Good racing.
Yeah.
It's so exciting to watch. Do you want to do your champagne pops?
Yes. I'm going to be honest, I haven't put too much thought into it.
I have my champagne pop.
Go ahead. Who's your champagne pop for the week?
I'm going to give my champagne pop to Max.
Wow.
I do think he deserves it because they had a lot of issues. And he still raced fantastic. And he again proved that, you know, just because it's a Red Bull doesn't mean it's going to be an automatic win. More so, Checo proved that.
Yeah.
But I think it's still, these wins make it sweeter because it shows like he's just a good race car driver. I'd like to also give an honorable mention to K-Mag.
Yeah, K-Mag for sure also gets my honorable mention. I think I'm going to give mine to Oscar. And not so much on the race side of things, but once again on just his kind of maturity side of things and how, like, calm he stayed during the race. Especially when, like, battling with George and him and George colliding a bit. And I still feel like even after, like, he kept... I feel like we would have seen some drivers just, like, absolutely kind of go off in the media a bit.
For sure. Oh, majority of the drivers would have been mad about this situation.
And like we talked about, he still was like, yeah, some of the stuff the team decided wasn't the best, but I don't know, I still feel like he did really well. I'm going to give it to Oscar this week.
Love that. What about your champagne problem? Because I've got mine.
Checo.
Oh, okay. That's a good one.
And it's going to stem a lot from qualifying. Like, how is your teammate fighting for pole and qualifying when you guys have one of the best cars on the grid and you're getting out in Q1? It's not adding up. There's something... What's going on right now?
He is going to be the reason that Red Bull doesn't win the Constructors' Cup if he keeps it up.
Yeah, it's not making sense. Max is solely the one fighting for the Constructors right now.
Yeah.
For the last 2 races.
I'm going to give my champagne problem to Ferrari as a whole.
Yeah, well...
Particularly Charles, but more so just Ferrari in general.
Yeah.
Because it sucks because it wasn't Charles's fault.
No, it wasn't.
It was his car's fault. It was the team strategy fault. It was the tire strategy and qualifying's fault. But at the end of the day, it happened to him. So you can't always control your champagne problems.
You know, Ferrari's pulling Ferrari things that we've seen in the past, and
Ferrari is Ferrariing.
They are, and for the past, up until the past 7 races, we were like, whew.
We haven't seen that in a while.
Are they done? Are they done doing that?
Have they fixed it?
Yeah, whatever it is.
Whatever it is, we thought they fixed it. It obviously didn't. They still make shit strategy calls, and they make a lot of dumb decisions. So I'm going to give my champagne problem to Ferrari as a whole.
I would love to... Yes, I agree with that. I would love to pick Ruth Buscom. I never say her last name right. And I realize I say that phrase a lot on this podcast, that I don't say names right.
We don't claim to be geniuses.
Yeah. I would love to pick her brain about the Ferrari strategy and everything that went on with the team this weekend.
I'd love to sit down and talk with her.
Honestly.
She did like an amazing job doing commentary during the practice sessions. At one point, her and Laura Winters were in there, and I was like, keep it like this the whole
literally.
But I was telling Gracie, I learned more when she was commentating practice session. I can't talk right now. Practice sessions than in like the 2-hour span of FP1 and FP2. Then I learned like the last couple of years that I've been watching Formula 1, because she explains what she's talking about. And so, like, there's a whole point in one of the practices that Charles put on inters before it was declared wet enough for those tires. Mm-hmm. And, like, one of the male, I don't even know which one said it, but one of the male commentators was like, oh, like, he's being looked at due to tires things, and that he just stopped talking. She goes, and this is why. And I'm like, thank you for the explanation. Like, I was over here like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And she's just so knowledgeable. She was spouting off, like, ratios and statistics off the top of her head, and she was recalling, like, you know, race winners' lap times from 5 years ago.
Crazy.
And a drop of a hat. Like, she is like another person. Her and Adrian Newey, if they joined forces,
oh my god,
man, it'd be a scary world out there.
We could truly make it to Mars.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah, get those two to NASA.
Literally.
Oh my goodness. So, she was great.
Yeah.
Another honorable mention for a champagne pop.
Yeah, for sure. She definitely gets one. I had something to say and I don't remember.
Yes, it wasn't very important.
I guess so. Do we have any more Formula One to talk about?
I think just a quick overview of where we are with the Constructors and Drivers Championship. So Drivers Championship, Max is still leading with 194 points. Charles is still in second with 138. But Lando Norris is in third. He is so close. He is just 7 points away from matching Charles for second.
Yeah, that's insane.
If he has another good race, and if Charles doesn't have another good race, he could move up to second, which would be amazing.
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
It'll be the highest that he's ever been.
Yeah.
And then Carlos is in fourth with 108 points, and Checo's in fifth with 107. Oscar is leading up behind him at 81 points, 81 for 81. So he's a little far off from the pack, but not crazy.
Too bad. I mean, if Checo has another race, like he's
Checo
past
keeps
2 races.
this.
Oscar's catching up.
Oscar could catch up real quick. Looking at Constructors' Cup, Red Bull is still in first for now. Ferrari is leading up at 252 points, and McLaren has 212 points. So again, if McLaren has another really good weekend and Ferrari doesn't, we could move into second for the Constructors' Cup, which would be amazing.
That double DNF helped us.
Oh, yeah, for sure helped us. And, you know, honestly, like I was saying, Red Bull did so good at the beginning consistently with both of the drivers, but we see it, you know, more and more so Max kind of keeping the points going.
Yeah.
That if the margins keep getting smaller and smaller like that, with McLaren and Ferrari both having two consistently better drivers than the two Red Bulls, I think Red Bull could be in trouble, and I do not think they'd be very happy if they lost the Constructors' Cup.
No, I don't think so at all.
Not be happy.
They'd be pissed.
And I think that would definitely cause them to look into Checo's contract a little bit, and maybe that could turn into maybe we're moving Yuki up before. I'm sure there's a clause in Checo's contract for it. That's why, like, you can't really trust these contracts.
From the outside perspective of what, like, a fan would know.
Right. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like, if a driver's doing bad enough, a team's going to buy them out of their contract.
Well, yeah, even, like, that we saw in Indycar, how David missed 4 races, and we didn't know this. But in his contract, it was if you miss 4 races, like, you are up for termination, and he did, so he was.
Yeah.
Like, there's just so many things we don't know. Mm-hmm. It's so crazy. I also feel like I would like to make a little notable note.
I love those notable notes.
Yeah, for sure. It's once again so fucking weird how much hate Lando gets.
Yeah, it's weird how much all of the drivers get.
It is, yeah. Obviously, I stand with this a lot. I don't like when other drivers or fans cheer loudly during the national anthems. I just feel like that's very disrespectful. I didn't like that Lando did that. I'm not defending that in the slightest.
I'll explain what he did.
Oh, okay. So during the things.
Give some context, girl.
During the podium, the Dutch national anthem was playing, and a bunch of fans started chanting Lando's name, and he, like, raised his arm and, like, fist pumped to it. I don't know how long he did it. I just saw a little clip of it, which, like I said, I feel like that's a little disrespectful, and, you know, we've seen it happen before to, like, Max a bunch of times last year. Yeah, so I don't like that, but people on the internet are so insane.
No, absolutely.
Like,
insane.
he reposted the driver of the day to his story and was like, very obviously a joke. Like, let's see if we can get all the driver of the days for the rest of the year. And people were like tearing him to shreds. They also like went in and grammatically corrected it. Did you see
that one was funny though, because he did have a lot of grammatical errors.
He's dyslexic.
Okay? Proofread it. Send it to someone on your team, man.
I don't care. It was really weird. And then people were like upset that Oscar didn't get the DRS, but
at the end of the day,
odd.
like, no decision while driving is really worth death threats.
I know, yeah.
Once again, there were death threats.
It's so... And
like,
if you are
people
that...
chill out.
It's a sport for people you don't know, and they don't know you.
How about you just, in your life in general, just don't threaten death on anyone?
At anybody. Let's take a step back and realize before we send out tweets like that. That's...
Yeah,
lots of death threats happening in motorsport this past couple weeks. It's insane. And I think that can lead us into IndyCar.
That's a perfect transition.
We need to quick recap the Juncos, Hollinger Racing, and McLaren deal, because last we talked about it. Mm-hmm. We were like, oh, they put out a statement. That's going so great. Great to see that happening. Mm-hmm. No, didn't go great. So McLaren did put out that statement, and they had, so at the beginning of the week, Monday, McLaren put out that statement and like tagged JHR team, and they were like, we don't condone online abuse. The JHR team like just retweeted it. They didn't make their own statement, whatever. And then this was all about Teo Pourchaire and Agustin Canapino, because they bumped Detroit. His fans. Minor bump. Nobody got injured. They all both finished. Mm-hmm. His fans were just seemingly very upset about this, and we didn't watch IndyCar last year, but apparently this is a trend we've seen before from JHR fans. So then McLaren put out that statement, and then the fans like kept tweeting. And Agustin Campino was actively interacting with them, liking the tweets, responding to a few. And then Campino put out a statement and was like, I didn't see any death threats, so it didn't happen. And someone quite literally in his replies sent the death threat that they had sent to Teo. Like, that they had DM'd
like,
to Teo.
Here's one.
No, I didn't. Don't you worry.
Guilty. That was me. As your fan, here you go. I'll show you proof right now.
Absolutely insane behavior. Mm-hmm. So then that led to Aaron McLaren pulling out the partnership that they have with JHR, which I think is a great move.
A good statement.
Great. Oh my gosh, yeah, for sure.
Also, props to Zach Brown for being absolutely savage on Twitter, being like, outwardly being like, they're insane. Like, you're fine. Like, don't worry about it. Yeah. Like, we've got your back, kind of thing. Like, they handled that.
Yeah.
Aaron McLaren handled that perfectly.
Very well. Like, Zach Brown, Tony, even Callum Eilert responded to Teo, because the fans did this. JHR fans did this to Callum Eilert last year when he was on JHR's team. And then, like, his fans brought up Callum in this whole thing. And then somebody tweeted and was like, Callum Eilert having no business in this, but he keeps getting brought back into this. Like, it was absolutely insane. And then my favorite was Callum tweeting that he won the Spa race. And then just logging off of Twitter. That was amazing.
Well, and then, so that all is led up to literally 20 minutes before qualifying starts for IndyCar.
Yeah.
A statement is put out, and it's Gaslight Central.
Oh my god, yeah.
It's JHR basically saying, due to death threats and the mental health of our driver, Canapino will not be participating in qualifying this weekend. We are going to pull up Siegel from
Indy Next
to race. It's just not, our driver's not in a good mental headspace for this.
When I believe it was 2 hours-ish before, 2 to 4 hours before, he was at an autograph session.
Yeah. And also keep in mind that in the statement that Canapino put out, he said everybody gets death threats. Yes. You just have to suck it up and move on from it. So even if you were getting death threats, suck it up and move on from it.
Suck it up and move on, I guess.
Use your own advice.
Use your own advice. Why can't you take it?
So it was weird. I don't know if they're gonna. I'm sure they're gonna bring Canapino back eventually.
Yeah.
But I wonder. I don't know if it's JHR being like, dude, you caused this whole mess. You lost us this partnership. You need some consequences.
Yeah.
Or if it's Canapino truly being like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Which is sad if that's the case. But like, yeah, mental health is important, Canapino. Maybe you shouldn't be making statements online about how mental health shouldn't matter.
And feeding into your fans.
Yeah.
Nonsense. And
That's
death threats and hate.
I don't know. Will Buxton did
that was
tweet him, was like,
amazing.
what did he say? He said something like gaslighting.
He literally posted a gif of a man holding up like an actual like lantern gaslight and said, look, it's a gaslight.
Yeah.
That was funny. The internet's crazy. It always has been. I feel like we've said this so many times. Take a step back.
Yeah.
Like genuinely.
F1 Twitter.
Motorsport Twitter. Absolutely insane.
Insane.
Do better, I guess. Please.
Yeah. We'll say it seems like every episode, but we're going to keep saying it because you need to find your chill. But anyways, that all happened right before qualifying. They literally pulled Siegel out of his car during Indy Next qualifying. It was like, dude, you gotta get ready.
Like, literally, he was in the car, and like he got a message, and he was like, okay, he got up and ran.
Start seeing his seat fitting.
him like jumping, and was crazy. Mm-hmm. Should we move on to positive news?
Yeah.
Because Friday morning, we're hanging out early morning. We're sitting there. We're about to get our day started. And I get a Twitter notification from Mr. David Malukas himself that says, we are so back, baby. I open it, and he's back.
I'm getting chills.
I am so excited.
Chills. Not that he wasn't back this weekend.
No.
But it was announced that he'd be back for Monterey with Meyer Shank.
Yes.
Which is super exciting. He'll be Felix's teammate. Pato's besties together. I saw a cute tweet that was like, I forget what the picture was, but it was like Pato waiting outside the Meyer Shank garage for his besties.
Yeah, that was cute.
It's really exciting, and it just once again proves that like,
good thing
you never know what's going to happen.
You never know,
motorsport.
yeah.
Like, you could think this is it. Like, you know, my career is over and something will open up. And that's, I think, super inspiring for a lot of drivers, including a lot of people in Formula 1 right now. That, like, maybe just because you don't keep your current seat doesn't mean it's the end of your motorsport career.
There's always options. Let's do a quick breakdown of this. So, Indycar, before the season started, David Malukas was with Aaron McLaren. He got in a mountain biking accident.
Get these drivers off the bikes.
Stay away from the bikes. He cannot race. He has surgery. He had pins put in. So 4 races go by, like we talked about earlier in the episode. He apparently had in his contract, if you miss 4 races, you are up for termination. They did terminate him just for consistency in the team. It was very upsetting. Hated it.
Yeah.
So, David was then off the team. Very sad. He, like, blacked out all of his social media.
Oh.
It's, like, really sad.
Yeah.
And then for, like, the 500, though, he was, like, doing a bunch of social media. It was really cool.
For
IndyCar, like, the IndyCar accounts. And then Tom Blomqvist in the Indy 500. So Tom Blomqvist was with Meyer Shank Racing. He was a rookie. He
made an
uh-oh, caused a bit of a collision, and was out the 500 very, like, I think lap 1. The team was upset about that, and they went through with replacing him for the next 2 races, as we saw. Like,
they said this is only for the 2 races.
Yeah, and then Tom would come back. Elio Castroneves took over for him for the past 2 races at Detroit and Road America in Wisconsin, and then...
We assumed at this point that Tom would be coming back for Monterey.
Yeah, and then I guess then the team had announced that Tom would not be coming back, and they hadn't really officially announced anyone, but for the time being it was going to be Elio Castroneves in the car. And then on Friday of this week, they announced that David was going to take over.
So exciting.
Little point. Because I agree with this, and I've seen a lot of people talk about this. Tom was a rookie. And I'm very happy David is racing. I fear they were too harsh to Tom.
Yeah.
He's a rookie. Like, they're not letting rookies be rookies. I saw someone say that, and I agree with that so much.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a double-edged sword.
Yeah. It sucks for Tom.
Yeah.
It's good for David.
Yeah.
There's only so many spots in motorsport. Not everyone can have a spot. It sucks, but...
It's just like this, like, sucked for David, great for Teo, great for Callum to run the 500, sucks for Tom, great for David.
Yeah.
We got a little full circle there.
Yeah. And hopefully Tom's time will come.
Yeah.
He could have a spot next year. He could move to another motorsport series. There's so many things that could happen. He could be a reserve driver. All of these things. I think it's just... It's not...
His time.
His time.
His time will come. Should I talk about the race?
Yeah. Let's do a quick recap. I'll do the top 6 qualifying. Linus Lunk. I can't say his last name. Yes. He's a rookie. Pole.
Amazing. It was so exciting.
It was beautiful
It was so
to
exciting.
watch. We know a lot of people that cheer for him. So we were very excited for them. Colton Herta, my man. I had a dream this week.
Stop it.
I had a dream this week that he was my boyfriend and he bought me chicken wings while I was in the bar bathroom line. And I woke up so disappointed. Not only was he not my boyfriend, I don't even have a boyfriend. Sucks.
No chicken wings either.
No chicken wings. I'll never look at a chicken wing the same. Anyways, third, Marcus Armstrong.
Woo!
Great qualifying
He's
for
so
him,
good.
especially coming after last week. He has been killing it lately.
Yeah.
Kyle Kirkwood, Will Power, Joseph Newgarden were the top 6. Joseph Newgarden had a nasty crash in
Oh my
in
gosh,
qualifying.
yeah.
It was so scary.
Like,
If it was 10 feet, that's an exaggeration. It was quite a bit more. But if it was a little bit further up on the wall, it would have been straight concrete. It would have been horrible. So luckily he was okay. He popped up right after he got, he was out really quick. But
that was scary.
It was really scary. But he was okay.
We were still watching the end of the Formula 1 race when IndyCar started, and I get a notification from Aero McLaren that says, collisions at the front of the pack. All three Aero McLarens make it through, and I was like, ooh, Celine, collision at the front. And then we go, oh my god,
Collision at the front!
we were like, Marcus, Colton, and Linus. We're like, they're all up there. Like, 2 of our 3 favorites.
It's very sad. I'll say this. So we did, quickly start watching the IndyCar race after Formula 1 ended. It was definitely a more relaxed race compared to the last couple of races.
Yeah,
compared
for sure.
to Detroit, compared to the Indy 500, and then
Barber. Yeah.
All 3 of those, kind of skipping over the Indy road course race. All of those were very, exciting. And this was exciting still, but it was, definitely, more of a normal race.
Yeah.
It was also a little hard to follow us watching IndyCar because they didn't have the sound on.
Oh, yeah.
Which did make it difficult. We probably missed quite a bit of things.
Yeah, we for sure
from it.
probably did.
But it was a good race. I'm happy with it. Again, I'm sure we missed so much. It was hard to it's also hard to kind of know what strategy people are on when you can't hear the commentators talk, and you also didn't watch the beginning of the race, so you're like, well, where are they in the pit cycle? Where are they with their tire life, that kind of thing. So it was hard to follow, and it almost made it a little more exciting because we were like, what's going to happen next? It's like a shock to us, too. But at the end, Will Power did win the race. Joseph Newgarden was second. Scott McLaughlin was third. So Penske top 3.
I guess we're happy for the Penske girlies.
We don't love Penske. I'm sure you all know that.
If you've listened to an episode since we started talking about IndyCar.
But it's fine. Alex Palou was in 4th. Kyle Kirkwood in 5th. Colton Herta in 6th.
Good comeback from the beginning.
Yeah. Also, Romain Grosjean in 7th. Yep. Great finish for him.
Where'd that come from?
Where did that come from? All 3 Andretti's were in the top 10, so I was very excited about that.
Something happened to Rossi. He finished in 17th or 18th.
Yeah, 18th. Yeah. Teo was in 13th. It was a good race. Scott Dixon down in 21st. He had that was him that had the incident where he was off, right?
That was Kevin Simpson, remember?
Oh, yeah.
Their cars look similar.
Their cars look so similar. Nolan did okay.
Did he finish? Yes.
Yeah. He did okay. I wonder if he'll get another chance, like if Canapino's going to be back for Monterey or not.
Yeah, that's a good question. There's 2 weeks off.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
About that. But great race. As far as standings go, Scotty Mack is still in first. Alex Palou's in second. That's not true. Is that true? Okay.
Yeah.
Will Power's in first. Alex Palou's in second. Scott Dixon's in third.
Yeah, because Scott was in first last week.
Mm-hmm. Pato's in fourth.
Not bad.
Pretty good.
So there's our race recaps.
Mm-hmm.
Next week there are no IndyCar or Formula 1, but Le Mans is the 24 Hours of Le Mans is happening. We are pumped. Our first endurance race we watched was the 24 Hours of Daytona, and we got so into it.
No, it really kicked off our TikTok account too.
It did.
If you scroll all the way to the bottom of our TikToks, those are the first ones that we made.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so interesting because we were learning a lot about endurance racing as we went. So we're like, wait, what's going on? Or we were like, what's the difference between, LMP2 and all of this stuff? It was just really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So we're kind of excited to get back into the endurance space and kind of figure everything out again. So make sure you're following us on TikTok because we will be posting quite a bit again.
Yeah. So we'll probably do a full Le Mans episode next week and kind of recapping that, how it goes, and if any news comes out from Formula 1 or IndyCar, we'll do that. I know next weekend IndyCar is also having testing, and that's going to in Wisconsin, and that's going to be the first time David gets back in an IndyCar, Woo-hoo! So it'll be very exciting to see. Thank you guys so much for listening.
Thank you.
Like we said, don't forget to follow us on all of our social medias. We really appreciate it.
We're so close to 300.
Yeah, please give us a follow on TikTok. And rate the episode. Give us a thumbs up, likes, 5 stars if you think we've deserved it.
Share with a friend.
Yeah. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks.
Bye.